Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Ready or Not. Today is a woman's perspective, predominantly on the issue of dating. Let's get into it. Okay, so today we are with my favorite person in the world. If you've never met my wife, this is Rochelle.
Hi.
You're pretty pumped to be here, obviously.
Obviously. No, I am.
A topic that obviously anyone at our age in life has lived through, but even now we're parenting kids through.
Lord help me.
The whole idea of attraction and these different things that go on in our hearts and our minds. And it's been pretty fun to do together. It's been pretty challenging to be led by our kids through these things. Because I don't know about you, but one thing that's become really clear to me is we don't get to pick what other people go through.
Right.
And yet we are attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's kids or friends or people at church, it doesn't matter. Whatever they go through, they're going to take you on their journey. Have you seen that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially like as a parent now going through this. Well, first of all, having kids at a dating age now really gave me a lot of compassion for my parents during my teenage years.
I was just going to ask.
And oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe the roller coaster I probably sent them on. And even this last weekend, going back and talking about, oh, I'm so glad I married who I did. Can you imagine if I ended up with...
I totally see what you mean.
But just those times of, learning through dating and just so grateful that I didn't get the answered prayers I had as a teenager. What has been pretty crazy, and also like gently trying to tell our children that that's the case. Sometimes you do just thank God for the prayers that you didn't get.
No, so that's honestly what a beautiful way to begin this conversation. The unanswered prayers, the things you thought you desperately wanted, but then looking back, like you would have gotten the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah.
Can you describe that a little bit?
So, for me, I was a boy crazy little girl, who thought that I wanted, this one person. And now as I look back, that person, these people just aren't even walking with the Lord anymore. And so for me, that was always my number one issue, was that the person that I married would be a good leader and, obviously stay walking with the Lord through our entire life. And, to be totally honest, you weren't necessarily in the place where I ever thought that this was going to be our journey, because you were so young in the Lord. But when we met, your faith was so fresh and so on fire. And I saw this in you that I was just like, oh my gosh, I love how simple his faith is right now, because I had been a Christian pretty much my whole life, and you were pretty new to the Lord.
Very new.
So I always thought, oh, I'm going to be with someone more mature than me and all this, idealistic stuff. And then when I met you and I told you the story, and your faith was just like, yeah, well, God said it. I'm not surprised. And I'm like, but aren't you surprised a little bit? And you were like, why would you be? God promised that he was going to take care of these things. So of course he did. And I'm like, well, that's so easy. So I don't know. I think it's pretty neat that God gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want at first or what we even see as being a possibility.
So thinking about expectations, right? A lot of people, especially growing up in Christendom, I don't know if this is in the secular world also, maybe it is, but I think it was encouraged, at least, in the past years, to have almost a list of expectations written out, to be very idealistic. Looking back, I think there were pros and cons to that. Some people want to just say it was all bad or it's all good, but what would you say some of the pros are to having thought through those, but then also some of the cons?
Yeah, I, as a young girl, I totally love journaling. So I had my prayer list of what I prayed for my husband. And as much as light hair, surfer, flip-flops, check. When I met you, those were things that I thought were awesome. But the biggest thing was a heart for the Lord, would want to travel or do missions, those kinds of things that I had seen. I pictured what I wanted my life with the Lord to look like and the kind of man that I wanted to lead. And those are the things I put. I wanted someone who was going to be funny and someone that was going to be fun to be with and spontaneous and all of these things that, I remember in our dating life, you drove over one time at like 9:30 at night, and you're like, want to go to the beach? I'm like, sure. So we jumped in the car and went to the beach, and it was pretty fun. But it's kind of, I mean, what were we, like 19 when we met?
19, turning 20.
Turning 20, yeah. So, I
Got
mean,
married a
at
year
that
later.
age,
Boom.
oh my gosh.
That's a different story
So
for a different
gnarly.
time.
Yeah. But so at this point too, though, we've told all our kids these fun, wonderful stories, and they're not quite at that age. I mean, Isaac is now, but
So pros, if you had to boil it down to like simple statements of some strengths that you saw come out of that, but then also maybe things that were a distraction or you didn't understand being at the age that you were.
Right. Things that I honestly didn't consider at all, and I didn't put on my list that I probably like would consider, will tell people to consider, was like, what kind of a father would this person be? Like, what kind of, like a husband? Are they a gentle person? Are they kind? I think that there's things that I had on the list, or that I didn't have, I guess, that I probably should have made more of a priority. If I thought husband, I think I was more thinking like just long-term ideal. And I probably didn't lean on it too hard, but once we met and we actually started dating and I found that list that I had been praying over for years, I realized that like almost everything to the T was the man who knocked on my door.
Okay, all right.
So there's nothing that would have been like a disqualifier by any means, but that was just my silly little way of like, okay, God, I'm praying for my husband to be this, this, and this. Also the past, probably like, we all come with a little bit of baggage, And so for me, like having an idealistic thing in my mind, like realizing that we're new creations in Christ once we, accept the Lord and stuff. So that kind of stuff is something that I probably would have let hold me back in other times, but then I just didn't when.
No, totally.
So
I think what an amazing testimony to what praying over this is. Right, at any age, even if you're single and older, but to really pray and ask the Lord. And he's answered that. I mean, even part of our marriage story, we found out your diary, right?
Yeah,
I know. Like that. I think
because our kids found my diary later.
Oh, well, okay. That's different. But you had been in a relationship with somebody and it seemed like the dream scenario, heart for ministry.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. People talk the talk, but are they walking the walk?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's a huge, if you're young and listening to this for whatever reason, if you were deaf, could you tell they were walking with the Lord?
Right.
If you couldn't hear anything they said about themselves, is their countenance what you think Christ's countenance, their expression would be like, the way they interact with people? Is it the way that you think Christ would interact with people? Forget people who say real loud, I love Jesus, I love Jesus, I love Jesus. Because people, it's not hard. I love one of the Proverbs says it's not hard to find someone who will praise themselves, yet try and find me one who is faithful. Right?
That's good.
And so it's easy to find someone who will praise their own self-life, but one who's just simply faithful in the little things, is okay behind the scenes. But all that to be said, this testimony of prayer, we found that diary, or you did, right before we got married. So we'd already been dating, we'd been engaged. I think we're getting ready to move out or move your stuff into
It's when I was moving my stuff out.
Okay, when you were moving your stuff out.
Yeah, which I'm a baby. And so I was like crying and sad and leaving my mommy and daddy's house for the first time and finding that journal and looking back and being like,
So the story is you were dating this guy and it seemed like the dream situation. And then it fizzled out. It broke away. Right? The guy who claims God is calling us together all of a sudden says God's not calling us together. It's like, well,
God changed his mind.
Either God's bipolar or you don't know how to listen to him.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. So with all of that, you guys break up. It's a little bit of a bummer for you. So you go and your mom sends you to family in Hawaii, which is cool.
Yeah.
But you made a commitment to the Lord. 6 months of making this commitment. And what commitment did you make?
So I just basically had said, I'm not going to even like let a guy be in my consideration for the next 6 months. It's just me and Jesus. I want to seek him undistracted. And I'm not going to like even give dating an option. Like, so I have friends. Yeah, sure. I'll hang out with friends. Sure. But I'm not going romance with anybody at all for the next 6 months. And then 6 months to the day is actually when you knocked on my door from that journal entry. And that was pretty funny to look back and see but you know what's really neat is God knows how slow I am, and he knows how special I am, that I need extra assurance. And so I can look back at the hardest of times that we've ever had in our entire life and know for a fact that you are the man that God created for me and that I prayed for. And well, actually, that I'm the woman God created for you specifically. And so that was pretty neat to see, just that confirmation.
So, yeah, I remember you told me that, and we did the math and found out, what? The day I knocked on the front door was 6 months of your commitment to the Lord. Yeah, barefoot, no shoes, surfer like you dreamt of. My, how things have changed. But what an amazing thing. So those who are entering into the dating realm, pray.
Yep.
And pray patiently, but pray persistently.
Yep.
Right? Keep going. Whether you journal it or you don't journal it, include friends, don't include friends, maybe less than you think you should, but really take it to the Lord. And the biggest thing, I think, in that, as you observe people and you're wondering, who is my spouse, is there evidence of the fruit of the Spirit in their life? They may not have tons of Bible verses memorized. Hopefully they do, right? That'd be a very big plus, but don't be wowed by that. Is there evidence of the fruit of the Spirit? Galatians 5, is there love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and long-suffering and self-control? If those things exist, they know the Lord. For me, you were smuggling Bibles into China. I had barely read one. That was wild. But yet here we are. The Lord's been so, so faithful. Okay, so praying, waiting, having some kind of list, right? That's important. Maybe don't be married to the list. Be married to the person, but put some thought into it, right? Bible says, ponder the path of your feet. Know where you're going. How important do you think it is for people who are dating to listen to friends and family?
I really think that, so friends can sometimes be salty, right? A little bit. But they know you.
Okay, hold on. This is a girl. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't live in the girls' world. Friends can be salty. Meaning like just by default, they're defensive towards you, so no one's good enough.
They're going to be a little skeptical. They're going to, it's going to be like, well, this person's not this, or this, or, oh no, I can see this person being better, whatever those kinds of things are. Salty means if they're maybe not in the best position, they might not be ready for you to be in that position just yet.
So a little envy?
So a little bit of like territorial, maybe? Is that a good word? Because they don't really want you to be in that position yet where they're going to lose you.
Not someone's girlfriend.
Yes, like they're going to lose you as their little bestie at that point, because things do shift when it is that person. I remember there was a dramatic change in, my life when you came into it, because now it's not like I have all of this time to hang out with my friends or my family. Well, my family, we were over at my family's house all the time. But it more became like we were learning each other and we're investing into that relationship. And when you see that it could be, this is something that I could see going like for the rest of my life, then you do really like leave all others and cleave to each other. And so that becomes a natural separation that maybe is like hard for people, I think, at some points to get through.
So listening to friends.
Listening to friends and valuing their opinion. If there's something that's dramatically like wrong with this person, don't just cut it out because, you're just jealous or you don't know this person like I do. They could see some really big red flags that maybe to like, Twitter paid it to see at that point. Sure. Family, I think, is actually pretty important to listen to if you have like solid parents who love Jesus and they're in the picture. They'll see things that we might not be in that mature state yet to see, or just some concerns, or like, hey, just be careful with this one, with, I think that sometimes, but when you know, and, I really think that if I had listened to every voice, we wouldn't have gotten married. We had a pretty unique story.
What?
But,
No, just kidding.
But I think that listening is important if there's valid concerns, but not every little critique.
So maybe
needs to be heard.
weigh the concerns.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't dismiss them.
Yep.
But also don't just live your life by them.
Right.
Weigh them, right? The Christian statement, take it to the Lord.
Yes.
Really consider it. I think even something you just said, like sometimes you just know that you know.
Yeah.
And our story is very non-traditional, ultra quick.
Yep.
Right. We met and we're married a year and a month later. But that's what God did.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we knew. And I think we were both so enjoying our own walks with the Lord. And honestly, that was brand new to me. So I was absolutely just enthralled with this whole discovering Jesus and reading the Gospels. And this is amazing. But when you're drawing near to the Lord, you get to know his heart and his will for you. And that will include whomever it is you're considering dating. So we talked about last time a little bit ago, just having a list and the pros and cons to that. Mostly pros, especially if it's prayed over. I think maybe that's the missing ingredient for some people's lists. They have to be 6'3", making $1 million, driving this car. Like that's carnal
only
stuff.
box you didn't check. Man,
That's
I'm just kidding.
that's carnal stuff.
Yes.
Having a list that's prayed over and reflected in the Bible, it's going to be a big deal. People have opinions but also perspectives. So friends and family, like take it, don't dismiss it, don't swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Take it to the Lord. So when should someone start dating? As a mom who was obviously previously a teenager at one point in your life, when is it good for a girl to start dating?
A girl to start dating? 35.
Yeah, 35.
No, I'm just kidding.
I love that. I'm going to tell my daughters.
My dad told me that, and he goes, "You just didn't listen."
Yep.
But no, I honestly,
we have girls.
I know, but I'm like that with my boys.
I'm picking their husband.
Don't
so
get
this
me
is
wrong.
This is easy for us.
My babies, like they're bringing a girl into our home, and I want to love her like my daughter, and I want him to be beyond blessed. So I think
just for clarity, I'm not actually picking their husbands. I would if I could, but what a responsibility.
That's
a different,
horrible.
Different thing.
Can you imagine?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. So I honestly think I think a good dating age is once you can get married, like truly, like, I think having groups of friends is probably the best idea. Like, I loved that. I loved having the time to go out and hang out with all of my friends, and we all went places, and it wasn't this one-on-one pressure. It was this, it was just a time of, honestly, like we would go into the canyon and we'd have worship nights, and it was so fun, and it wasn't anything like, it was like, awesome. And we'd go to the beach and have bonfires, and it was a bunch of people all together, and it wasn't ever this pressure of this one-on-one, because then there's that awkward tension of like, if it's a boy and a girl, it's just made it like a little bit different. So I personally think that having a boy and a girl can start dating ish once they're in a place where if it gets serious, then they can consider marriage. I pretty much agree. We've been together long enough to think alike on most things. I've always told people, especially when we did college ministry together for so long, you don't maybe have to be able to get married tomorrow, but you have to be within a year of being married. Oh, yeah. Long engagements are totally
Are you set up where maybe today you couldn't move out, but are you within a year of being able to get top ramen, refried beans, and a studio apartment?
Yes,
right?
Totally.
Which apparently for our girls is 35. I love the group.
I want to be a grandma, so they have to get married at a decent age.
No, the boys, right? That's
no, all of them.
It's crazy. We were talking about this. I remember when our girl was born, especially our firstborn girl. It hit me early. I don't even think she was 1. I was like, some guy is going to come into her life and steal her from me.
And I'm not going to be her man anymore.
And then I realized I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I did that to your dad.
Punk.
And I was like, oh my gosh. But it is important too. And I think there's a song that came out recently that talks about, you're not just breaking her heart, but the whole family's.
Yes.
I forget how it goes and all that kind of stuff. But
Ella loves that song.
In all reality, it's true. You're marrying the family.
Yes.
And maybe you're willing to count the cost. Maybe you're not. But at least be conscious of it. Like, that's a real thing. And so being aware of that. Age, it's hard to put a number on, like some people.
Maturity level.
Well, that's what we came up with our kids and trying to walk through this. If we could wave a magic wand where emotion wasn't the driver, it was them leading emotion, not emotion leading them. But relational maturity, right?
Yeah.
Is this? I mean, it sounds such like a fancy title or a phrase.
Yep.
But what we mean by that when we talk to our kids, and if you're younger or you're trying to raise kids, like their relational maturity. How do they handle conflict? If they handle conflict like a 5-year-old, well, they're 17.
shot.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're acting like a 5-year-old. If their expectations are unrealistic, if they're not acting and living, their relationships and the family and friends aren't mature, then they're not ready to start dating, right? That's the most mature relationship they're going to have to be in. So as much as we can, being mindful, those of you guys out there being mindful of like, how do you deal with disappointment? Does it send you into a spiral and you sit in your room and cry all day because your coffee wasn't made right? Or is there some strength and mileage to your life? Some people at 17 are very mature and ready. Yeah. Some people aren't and probably should wait a minute, get a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
So anyway, so relational maturity, age for dating. What about guys? Guys in general. Do you trust them?
No, not for a second.
Oh, come on, guys.
Okay. If a guy is too hyper spiritual, I think it's a red flag. Fully.
Amen.
If somebody cannot talk to you in a normal conversation, and everyone has to be like, the Lord showed me this and God told me this. And it's like, sweet. So what'd you have for lunch today? Oh yeah, well, the Lord really blessed me. There's a little bit of a red flag there with it. I think as far as like guys, I think being able to carry on a normal conversation and authentically allowing the Lord to be part of your life, but not trying to like show off or flex in that way. I've seen that kind of be like a bit of a thing where concerns me when I see people get into these relationships. Guys in general, I mean, I feel like you could trust guys as much as you can girls, you know?
Preach it.
Because I think that, I mean, I'm a mama of voice, so sometimes I can see these girls being a little scandalous, you know? And so I think it goes both ways. I was always taught as a young girl that guys are supposed to guard a girl's heart and girls are supposed to guard a guy's eyes. And so I think that you like treasure modesty in a girl, and for a guy, like someone who's going to be a gentleman and who is going to actually treasure that person's heart and not want to break it. And in turn, that means that you're not going to get too close until you know. Yep. Like there's parts of that person that you should have zero access to, emotionally and everything. And so I think that going too deep too fast is like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's easy to do, especially nowadays with text nonstop, and you don't have to actually make the awkward phone call of like, can I speak to so-and-so? It's just free access 24/7. I think that people can just dive in really headstrong, really fast. And so I think that on both sides of the spectrum that they need to watch out and guard against diving into too quick.
Really good insight. I remember being told once, you might have even been the one that said this, it's easy to get a guy's attention, but that's not how you get his heart.
Right.
Or you can dress a certain way and get him to look, but that is not how you get him to care.
Right.
And so living your life as unto the Lord, inside and out. Ladies, got to be honest, it's not that hard to trick you, right? Buy you flowers, compliment your hair, open the door for you, and you've been swept off your feet. So be careful, be attentive, be in prayer, and wait on the Lord. Okay, so let's bring up kind of a couple closing ideas, but communication, right? Even 20 years into it.
I'm the best communicator,
you're the best communicator. Oh, boy. I think we've gotten pretty darn good at it. Yeah. Enjoy our communication. We know I think one of the biggest things we've discerned over time is when we need to communicate to each other.
Yes.
Or being more understanding if someone's not and drawing it out of them versus crossing our arms and like, you should know by now. But communication, it's changed so rapidly just in our lifetime, right? We're getting older, but we're not old yet.
Yeah.
But it has changed lifetimes at light speed how people communicate in general.
Yeah.
When you and I met, we're going to date it. Here we go.
143-823.
There was
text messages.
pagers.
Yes.
Right? Pagers were dying. They were on their way out, but they were there. And definitely cell phones were a thing that maybe 30% of the population had.
Yeah, not even that.
But
probably.
texting it to like hit, if you wanted the letter C, you had to hit number 1 3 times, like A, B, C.
Yes.
And then, so very barbaric in today's terms. Old cavemen.
Yeah.
But now people are building relationships without ever even hearing each other's voices.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's true.
So what do you think about, especially from a girl's perspective, just communication in general in the area of dating and especially the early on, the meeting each other phase?
So I'm of the opinion personally that unless you can look into someone's eyes, you don't actually know what's going on. They can be an amazing texter. They could be on your social sending you like cute little reels and all this stuff. And I think that's super dangerous to build a foundation of marriage on, or even like a dating relationship on. I understand that nowadays that's how people meet and it's how they choose to start things off. And I'm too ancient to say one way or the other. I personally wouldn't have been able to do that. I'm a big, like, I'm going to look you in the eye and see what you're actually all about. I think you can tell a lot about a person in person. But the whole, I feel like people get duped a lot on either social or they're one of 10 people that person's talking to. And I've just had a lot of experience with people getting their hearts broken.
So you brought up something actually very insightful. I love what you just said. Looking into their eyes, you can tell a lot about a person, right? And Jesus is the one. Anything in the Bible's Bible enough for me, but Jesus, doubling down on this, he says that your eyes are the window to your soul.
Yeah.
And if the light going in is good, then your soul is good. And if the light going in or the things you're absorbing are of darkness or evil, then it's going to pollute your own heart and your mind.
Yeah.
I think there's absolute validity to sitting down. Will someone even look you in the eyes?
Right. No, that's very true. Because sometimes people are so shady or they're hiding stuff. They're just like, they don't even know how to actually communicate. And then you're going to build a relationship with this person because you've had really great text chats or really great, Instagram activity with this person. And you just think you know them backwards and forwards. And you get together and you're like,
that's where the whole catfish thing came from, right?
No, catfish is not that deep.
Oh,
that
see,
is like
I'm still figuring it all out.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to teach you. No, that's when like you get duped. Like someone could be a girl and someone like in a basement, and she's saying that she's a 6'5" like Italian stallion type person.
Catfish on a micro level. I mean, catfishing is this huge letdown.
It's like a total
right. If I'm like
deception.
I'm 6'5", bench press 10,000 pounds, and I drive a Ferrari.
Yes, there you go.
And then I show up and I'm me.
Oh, stop. You're so cute.
No,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
But on a micro level, right? You can text, you can DM on Instagram or some social media and have this like linguistic relationship, and then in person, you're like, dude, you're such a dud.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so maybe, because that is a way. I couldn't believe it. I remember sitting down to do premarital with a couple. And I was like, hey, how are you guys? And they were all giddy and happy. And I was like, so where do you live? And she was like, oh, I live. And it was in a particular city, pretty close by the church. And I was like, well, where do you live? And New York. I'm like, New York?
Oh.
Did you guys meet before you moved or whatever? He's like, no, we met on Instagram. I was like, what? And I tried to play it off, but I was like, I'm not even going to play this one off with you guys. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And here they are, right? They weren't coming in to meet. They were coming in for premarital. They were getting engaged. But they had figured out, to their credit, they had figured out how to bridge that gap and get to know each other. But generally speaking, looking in someone's eyes, sitting down and talking to them, having a relationship. And I think one of the things you were hinting at or alluding to, it's okay, I guess, supposed to meet. Someone texts you, DMs you, whatever, even though it's maybe outside of our norm. But don't make up your mind about them. This person is so great. Right. Oh, this person is so wonderful. Because why? They went through your profile, found out what you like, and send you things they already kind of investigated and figured you out.
Right.
So, fine. If you meet them somehow online, be careful. But don't be wowed by them until you've spent time with them.
Yeah, I think honestly getting to know their family, getting to know their friends, seeing who they choose to keep time with. Like, is this person, how are these people that they're around? Because you become like those people that you hang out with, So do they have stand-up good friends? What do they spend their time doing? And not being fooled by any sweet word that a guy sends, because it could be really easy. And also like the integrity that a person will have online. I know that even in marriage relationships, I've watched, sadly, like we're one of the only few couples that I know that are still standing out of the several people that I know got married around the same time as us. And just there can be just this lack of integrity when it comes to an online lifestyle, where it's really easy to kindle old things with, high school sweethearts from back in the day, or even like past crushes. And now all of a sudden you're behind a keyboard, so you have a lot more confidence, and there's like these inappropriate things that are just taking place where they can say it's innocent, but in your heart of hearts, it's not innocent,
I love what you're saying. And even in 1 Timothy, right, if you're going to be a leader of any kind, really, and let's just put husband and wife into that category for this conversation, you're not supposed to be blameless or innocent. Like, well, I didn't do anything. It means even above being accused of looking like you're doing something.
Above reproach.
And I love being enslaved to the word. I looking back now, it was hard and grueling sometimes to just do what the Bible says, and your emotions are kicking and screaming. But it's wild that if you just do what the Bible says, you'll never regret it. And in the long run, you'll celebrate it.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, or I guess in addition to that, we were blessed to have people around us to just like put up walls. Like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I mean, our pastor, the other pastors at church, mature friends, our parents, you just don't talk to those people anymore.
Yeah.
I know for us, especially being a pastor on staff, it was like you do not meet with women alone. If you have to have a counseling setting, the door's cracked open. Like, you're never, ever going to be alone with a woman, period. Like, well, that's kind of extreme.
It is extreme.
But like what you just said.
Yeah, but
we're still married.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Like, it worked.
And it's great because it's like, it is extreme, but am I willing to be extreme for my husband? Yes, absolutely. Like, that is the most important relationship I have besides me and Jesus.
Yep.
And we're what's going to last. What's going to take, we're going to stand the test of time. And so Satan is after it, and he's after it in any way, shape, or form. And so even early on, I thought I was totally against it, remember? Like, it was one of our biggest fights in the very beginning.
I think it was our only one.
Yeah, probably before we got married. I think it was our only fight. And man, like, I was just determined. No, I have guy friends. That's my best friend. I'm not going to not be best friends with this person. I wouldn't consider getting married if I couldn't still keep my friends. And you were so gracious about it, which was like, just showed your maturity level with it. And God worked on my heart. And so, but it is not a healthy thing for a girl to have a guy best friend. And I know it's really popular. There's so many girls that are just like, I'm only friends with guys because they're just so much less complicated. And
man.
It's not wrong. Girls are very complicated.
True. Girls are complicated.
But guys cannot be your best friend if you're going to have a spouse. That's,
Well, and vice versa. I know a lot of guys, because one thing you don't necessarily get from guys is a whole lot of like tender care.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah.
But so they'll start confiding in a girl because,
Yep.
they listen to me and they understand. It's like, dude.
And you're up to your neck in an emotional affair.
And even if it doesn't go that far, let's say you're 20, 21, you're dating, or you meet this girl. What you don't know is this friend you've been confiding in, one of you eventually is going to have an interest.
Oh, 100%.
I promise you, 100% of the time, one of you will start to like the other, whether you ever admit it or not.
I was wrong.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. I'm thinking about other things. That's true.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
As sure as if you let a rock go, it falls because of gravity.
Yeah.
When you confide and lean on each other for comfort, one is going to start liking the other. And then the other thing, you have this deep, intimate relationship and connection, and let's say they're not the one you like someone else.
Yes.
Well, you think that other person is like, oh, sure, keep confiding in your previous friend girl person.
Yeah.
No way.
Exactly.
And if they are okay with it, they're not a good person to be with in the first place.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, that's not a trusting thing because it means that their boundaries are now off, right? And so it's like, okay, if you're okay with me doing this, why are you okay with me doing this? Is that happening with you, with other people? And it truly is like from, when we were talking before about it, it's a part of your heart that you're giving away to somebody they have no business having.
That's right.
And that's kept reserved for your spouse.
That's
and
right.
that should be something like, go to your mama.
Like the last thing, we'll close with this. It'll be a tiny statement. But the Bible says, do not awaken or stir up love until it pleases.
Yes.
Right? There's a time for that. Now, on the flip side, you don't have to be afraid of it. You can date someone and it doesn't work out. Right? That's not the end of the world. As long as it's done with integrity, it honors the Lord, it was prayed over, and then like, oh, this just isn't working. And so it concludes. So step into it when it's time, but be willing to step away from it if it's not working.
Yeah.
Right? Appreciate you guys listening in. Obviously, this conversation could go for a really long time. Lord willing, we'll come back and hit this again from another perspective. But whatever you do, do as unto the Lord, including your dating life, and you will never regret it. See you guys.
Bye.